Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into the damp boots of someone you never wanted to be, a medieval assassin. You're not a dashing spy or a smooth-talking noble with a poisoned ring. No, you're a hunched figure wrapped in threadbare wool, carrying a rusty dagger and a list of regrets longer than your resume. It's not glamorous. It's not noble. And frankly, it's not great for your dental hygiene. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake up in a pile of straw. Not a comfy feather bed. Not even a decent wool mattress. Just straw. And you're pretty sure something mouse, flea, regret just moved underneath you. Your back aches. Your mouth tastes like you chewed on a blacksmith's boot overnight. And your first thought is, oh no, it's mission day. The room is dark, cramped, and smells like stale beer and old turnips. You're renting space in the back of an inn that doesn't ask questions, which is good, because you have no answers. You dress quickly, slipping on your faded tunic and the cloak that smells permanently of smoke and cabbage. The dagger is still under your mat, cold and slightly sticky. You don't want to know why. Outside, the village is waking up. Roosters crow, dogs bark. Someone's already yelling at a goose. The medieval morning symphony. You pull your hood low over your face and sneak out, dodging a farmer carrying a suspiciously aggressive rake. You head toward the woods at the edge of town, where your contact, a jittery apothecary named Ral, has agreed to meet you. He says he has something new for you. You hope it's a better job, or toothpaste. He's late, as always. You crouch behind a stump, rubbing your cold hands together. Mist clings to the grass, soaking your boots. There's a gentle buzz of insects, and one very large bee that seems to be reconsidering your ear canal as a nesting site. Finally, Ralph arrives. His beard is uneven. His belt is a piece of rope. He smells like pickled onions. You ready? He whispers, which would be stealthier if he hadn't tripped on a root immediately after. I guess, you sigh. Who's the target? Ralph looks around, even though no one is there. A merchant, rich, big guy, got enemies. One of them's paying good coin. You raise an eyebrow. How good? He scratches his head. Well, not coin exactly, but I'll give you 2 loaves of rye and a vial of that stuff that makes goats pass out. You blink. That's not a currency. In some places it is, he mutters defensively. But what can you do? You're not exactly drowning in job offers. So you take the assignment, pocket the vial, and start walking back to town. Your destination, the market square. And this is where it gets tricky. Unlike in bard songs, assas, a meal. You haven't eaten since yesterday's bread heel, and even that tasted like sadness and sawdust. You lie still behind the hay bale, catching your breath as your heartbeat gradually slows from hunted deer to mildly anxious pigeon. Outside, the steward is yelling something unintelligible, possibly cursing the gods, possibly threatening the granary keeper with goose-based vengeance. Either way, you're safe. For now. Once the shouting dies down, You slink out of the stable and head toward the riverside. There's a small tavern there, less a building, and more a loose collection of damp boards, smoke, and hope. But the stew is cheap, and the barkeep owes you a favor. Specifically, you once accidentally saved his brother from choking on a chicken bone by thumping him on the back while fleeing from a job gone wrong. Inside, the tavern is dim, warm, and thick with the scent of burning fat and overboiled onions. You slide into a bench near the hearth, careful to keep your cloak pulled low. A one-eyed man is singing a ballad to his turnip. No one finds this strange. The barkeep nods at you. Usual. You nod back. And some boiled water if you've got it. He grins. Fancy tonight, eh? Within minutes, you've got a bowl of stew, mostly roots, maybe some lentils, definitely a small bone from something, and a wooden cup of suspiciously cloudy water. It's enough. You eat quickly, eyes always scanning the room. It's the sort of place where people mind their business, mostly because they have too much of it already. Full, or at least less empty, you take out the key again. Turn it in your palm. Small, not ornate. But the shape suggests something older. Not a merchant's box, but something personal. You consider your options. Option 1, forget the key, forget the steward, and sell the papers for fire kindling. Option 2, find the lock that this thing opens and see if you've stumbled onto something better than barley receipts. Naturally, you choose option 2. You're not smart, but you are stubborn. You head to the scribe's quarters, near the abbey, where the steward sometimes lodges. You've seen him entering the stone building once or twice, and you figure it's a good place to start poking around. Not literally. You learned your lesson with the wasps. It's dusk now, the sky painted in lazy streaks of orange and ash. The abbey bells toll in the distance, signaling evening prayers or maybe just warning about bad soup again. You approach the scribe's hall, pretending to be very interested in the condition of nearby moss. A monk passes humming. You nod solemnly. He nods back with equal solemnity. It's a very polite moment of mutual suspicion. You circle the building. There is a side entrance, locked, of course. But the wooden paneling is old, and the latch has rusted. With a little dagger work and a lot of luck, the door creaks open. You slide inside. It's quiet, dusty, smells like wax and ink, and the faint tang of disappointment. You creep through the hallway, peering into rooms filled with scrolls, ledgers, and an unsettling number of half-melted candles. Finally, a small chamber catches your eye. Inside, a writing desk, a stack of sealed letters, and a chest. A chest with a lock. You move fast, fingers trembling slightly as you insert the key. It sticks for a moment, then clicks. Inside, cloth bundles, a pouch of coins, real ones this time, some letters, sealed with the Baron's crest, and a ring, heavy, gold, inlaid with a carved boar. Jackpot. You pocket the coin pouch, slip the ring into your sleeve, and consider the letters. Blackmail? Evidence? An invitation to a goose-themed masquerade? You don't have time to read them here. You relock the chest, close the door behind you, and vanish into the street like a mildly graceful shadow. The kind that probably needs orthopedic shoes. Back in your corner at the inn, you finally examine the letters by candlelight. One is addressed to Sir Reginald of Dunswallow. Another bears only a symbol, a three-towered castle drawn in red wax. You're not sure what it all means yet, but one thing is clear. You've got something important and dangerous, possibly both. The ring alone could be sold for enough to buy a decent horse, a new cloak, and a mattress that doesn't have straw lice. But you hesitate. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Being an assassin isn't just about blades and shadows. It's about decisions. Messy, uncomfortable, unprofitable decisions. Do you sell the ring and disappear? Or do you try to play this game a little longer, pull on a thread, and see what unravels? You lean back, cloak around your shoulders, candle flickering. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks. Or it might be someone coughing. Or both. You tuck the papers under your mat, just in case. Then you lie down, one hand still on the dagger you managed to retrieve from a barrel of spoiled apples. Don't ask. The straw is still itchy. The air is still cold. But something has shifted. You don't sleep much that night. Not because of danger, though that's always present, but because of something worse, curiosity. The kind that burrows into your brain like a tick and refuses to be scratched out. The key, the pouch, the steward. You roll onto your side, then your back, and try curling into a ball to forget it all. Doesn't help. The straw mattress creaks in protest. By the time the first rooster crows, a sound that will forever haunt your dreams, you've made up your mind. You're going to find that lock. If it kills you, which given your recent track record, it probably will. The morning air is brisk, and the sky is a faded gray, like someone forgot to color it in. You slip through the inn's back door, past a yawning stable boy, and into the misty lanes of the village. The key burns a hole in your boot, not literally, though that wouldn't surprise you, but in the way that secrets do. Your first stop is the scribe's hall. Again, you circle it like a hawk scouting for a rabbit. It's too well guarded in the daylight, too many monks, too much chanting. You scratch it off the list for now. Next, the granary. Again, no luck. Guards now posted, grumbling about thieves and suspicious stew buyers. You keep walking. You wander through the merchant quarter, half looking, half hoping. A locksmith's stall catches your eye. It's run by a hunched old woman with fingers like bird claws and eyes sharp as goosebeaks. Looking for a match? She croaks, eyeing your boot with unsettling precision. You hesitate. Maybe. She motions you forward and you reluctantly produce the key. She turns it over in her gnarled hands, squinting at the teeth. Old, she mutters. Guild made, not local. Borderlands work, maybe Eastern. That doesn't narrow much down, but you nod solemnly, pretending it means something. She gives it back without asking for a coin. Good luck, she says. Hope it's not cursed. You blink. Cursed? But she's already whistling to herself. Back to filing metal like nothing happened. Great. You resume walking, more aimless now. You pass the well, the baker's stall. The stocks currently occupied by a man whose crime was reportedly excessive whistling. The village is normal, too normal. Which, to you, is the loudest red flag of all? Eventually, you find yourself near the edge of town, where the buildings thin out and the roads become less road and more mud, masquerading as intention. There's a manor here, not Baron Fennel's, not nearly that grand, but one of his lesser vassals, a knight who mostly collects taxes and drinks them. You've seen the steward visit before, briefly, suspiciously, You inch towards the side gate, pretending to adjust your boot while eyeing the hinges. No guard. Just a goat, tied up and chewing on what might be someone's laundry. You slide inside. The courtyard is quiet, empty. Just cracked stones and a broken cart. You spot the servant's entrance and head straight for it. Inside, the manor is dim and musty. You step carefully, ears straining for any sign of life. A snoring cook. A distant creak. Someone was whispering a prayer in a cupboard. All perfectly normal. You find a door tucked beneath the stairs. Heavy wood, iron hinges, simple lock. You try the key. It fits. You hold your breath. It turns. Click. The door groans open like it's waking from a nap. Beyond, darkness, and the faint smell of wet parchment. You light a small oil lamp and descend. Stone steps, cobwebs. Dust motes are dancing like sleepy ghosts. You enter a room the size of a modest bedroom. Inside, chests, shelves. Scrolls were stacked haphazardly. Crates stamped with the fennel crest. And one metal box, small, unassuming, locked. You kneel. The key turns again. Inside the box, a leather folio, a bag of real coin, not dried beans disguised as money, and several sealed letters bearing an unfamiliar crest, a broken wheel. You open the folio. Inside, maps, diagrams, a list of names, some crossed out. You swallow. These are assassination orders, not yours. Not yet, anyway. But someone's. From someone high up. A network. Maybe even a guild. You recognize one of the names as a local reeve who died mysteriously last winter. Another is still alive. A third is you. You stare at the parchment. Your name. Misspelled slightly, but close enough to chill your spine. Someone had you marked. Historians still argue whether early medieval guilds had the reach to coordinate murders across provinces, or whether this level of organization was rare. Either way, this is troubling. You pocket the folio, replace the letters, and relock the chest. Quietly, carefully, your hand trembles just a little. You backtrack up the stairs, pause at the top, and listen. Silence. You slip outside and take a long, steadying breath. You're not just a scavenger anymore. You're in the middle of something. Back in the village, you sit on a stone wall behind the chapel and try to think. A dozen possibilities. All bad. You've got evidence, sure, but the thought lingers in your mind like the smell of boiled cabbage, persistent, unpleasant, and impossible to ignore. What if you were meant to find that key? What if the steward was no fool but a player? And worse, what if the game had already started and you were the only one who didn't know you were on the board? You stare into your soup, willing it to reveal secrets. It doesn't. It just bubbles ominously. A potato chunk surfaces and sinks again. Like it too, has seen things it can't speak of. You've been used before. Everyone in this trade has, but this feels different. Bigger, heavier, like a curtain's been pulled back. And instead of a clear answer, you've found a hall of mirrors. And each one reflects a version of you with slightly worse posture and more unpaid debts. You poke at the bread beside your bowl. Stale. Of course. Everything is stale today, even your confidence. You sit back and scan the room slowly, one elbow on the table, fingers tracing a burn mark in the wood. The minstrel in the corner is now playing something that sounds like a drunken dirge. A woman is laughing too loudly at a joke you're pretty sure was about chickens. Nobody seems interested in you, but you know better. Someone always is. You finish your meal and slide the bowl away. Time to think, time to move. You rise and leave a few coppers on the table, not enough to be generous, but enough to be forgotten. Outside, the night air presses close. Mist rolls along the cobblestones like it's late to its own funeral. You head south, toward the edge of the village where the buildings thin and the soil turns to gravel. There's an old watchtower there, abandoned for years, too short for archers, too crooked for monks, perfect for people who don't want to be found. And right now, you don't want to be found. Inside, the tower groans with age. Wooden beams like ribs hold up a roof that leaks in all the wrong places. You sit in a corner on the cold stone floor, unwrap the folio again, and look closer. The maps are detailed, uncomfortably so. They chart not just roads and towns, but hidden paths, water access points, and guard rotations. You spot symbols you don't recognize, circles with jagged lines, letters in a script that feels wrong, foreign maybe, or coded. You flip through the pages again, a list of names. One of them is underlined, ink darker than the rest. Fresh? The name is unfamiliar, but beside it is a location. Caldwin Cross, 3 days. You've heard of Caldwin Cross, barely. A hamlet near the border, known mostly for its sheep and its tendency to flood every spring. Not exactly a power hub. But the date, it's 2 days from now. You close the folio and stare at the moldy ceiling beams. You have a choice. You could walk away, sell what you found, disappear into some coastal town and pretend to be a fisherman who doesn't know what herring looks like. Or you could go to Caldwin. You already know which you'll choose. The next morning, you're packed and gone before dawn. Your boots are dry for once. Your cloak mostly doesn't smell like onions. It's practically a holiday. The road is long and unpaved, winding through hills that look like they've seen better centuries. You pass shepherds, monks, a merchant with one eye, and too many goats. No one gives you more than a glance. Good. You sleep one night in a hayloft, waking up with straw in your mouth, and a new appreciation for flat surfaces. On the second night, you camp by a stream and fall asleep listening to frogs arguing in the reeds. By midday on the third day, you reach Caldwin Cross. It's smaller than you imagined. A few homes clustered around a muddy square, one church, one inn, a well, and a wooden post with various notices, mostly about lost pigs and a suspicious man who reportedly makes eye contact too confidently. You book a room at the inn. The innkeeper eyes you like she's seen your type before and didn't enjoy it, but takes your coin anyway. You ask casually if anyone news arrived in the last day. Only the priest, she says. Bit late in the season for a transfer, but who knows with holy folk. Interesting. You eat, wait until dusk, then visit the church. It's small, old, smells like damp wood and unspoken guilt. The new priest is in the back, arranging candles, young, nervous. You can spot a bad liar across a field at midnight in the rain. You pretend to pray, then slip out and circle the building. There's a small shed behind it, locked but poorly. You pop the latch with your dagger and slip inside. Inside, nothing unusual at first. Tools, rope, a few crates of communion bread that look more like bricks. But then you find it a cloak, black, with a red stitch in at the hem, a guild mark, not yours. This priest is no priest. You close the shed and walk back to the inn, heart thudding quietly in your chest. It all fits now. The maps, the steward, the list. Caldwin isn't the mission. It's the meeting. You're early. And that means you have time to watch, time. There's something uniquely nerve-wracking about pretending to be calm when every instinct in your body is screaming for you to run. You sit by the window in the inn's common room, sipping weak ale and watching the village square through the warped glass. The new priest walks by twice, once heading toward the well, once back to the chapel, each time with the careful pace of someone pretending not to be watched. He knows he's being followed, or he suspects. Either way, the mask is on, and so is yours. You keep your expression neutral, your posture slouched just enough to look uninterested. But your eyes? Your eyes are working like a ledger clerk in tax season, tracking every detail, every twitch, every unnatural stillness. And what you see is this: he's not from here, not just in the obvious wrong accent kind of way, but in the subtle things. The way he avoids puddles with the instinct of someone used to silk boots. The way he nods too formally at farmers. The way he wears his robe like it was tailored, because it probably was. Real village priests don't have tailored robes. He's not just pretending to be a priest. He's rehearsed it, which means he's here for something important. You decide to move. You leave the inn through the rear kitchen door, stepping around a boy skinning potatoes and a cat that is either ancient or slowly becoming part of the floorboards. The air outside smells like damp wood and wet wool. You circle the church slowly, keeping to shadows, letting the night do the work of your cloak. At the back of the chapel, candlelight flickers through the shutters. You ease closer, crouch beside a rain barrel, and listen. Voices, two of them, one the fake priest, calm, measured. The other, rougher, accented, probably northern. A merchant, a messenger, hard to say. You make out phrases like 3 marks left, not secondary target, and arrival confirmed. Charming. They're not just here for a job, they're coordinating. You pull away before they finish. You've heard enough. You slide back towards the main street and consider your options. You could confront them, risky, or you could wait, see who else arrives. You choose patience, mostly because your last few choices involving confrontation ended with bruises and questionable dental work. Over the next 2 days, Caldwin fills. Not dramatically. No banners, no trumpets, just little things. A man with a hawk who doesn't speak to anyone. A woman who wears a widow's veil but carries herself like a soldier. A tinker with too many knives and not enough pots. They nod at each other in passing but never linger. It's a ballet of near misses and glancing touches. You're not the only one watching. The fake priest leads small services. He preaches with just enough passion to convince the locals, but not so much that he sweats. On the third night, you see him slip something under the altar. Too small to be a book, too large to be a coin. A token, a marker. Historians still argue whether medieval covert orders used religious spaces as sanctuaries or signal hubs. From what you're seeing, it was probably both. On the 4th morning, a carriage arrives. Old, plain, but guarded. A woman steps out, tall, hooded. Graceful in the way wolves are graceful before they pounce. You don't need to be told she's the one in charge. The false priest meets her behind the inn. You pretend to stack firewood nearby. You hear only one line. The others are in place. And then she says, "Good. The bait has served. You freeze. You don't move. Don't blink. You are the bait. Of course you are. The steward, the key, the letter. It was all a trail. And you, poor idiot that you are, followed it like a puppy chasing bacon. They're not just planning something, they're preparing for you. That night you don't sleep. You sit in your room, dagger in hand, eyes on the door. Outside, the wind rattles shutters and carries distant laughter from the tavern. You think about running, you even pack your things, but your feet won't move. Because underneath the fear, deep beneath it, there's something else.
anger. They tried to use you, discard you, assume you'd stumble along like a lost dog. They didn't expect you to pay attention. They didn't expect you to make it this far. You grin. They'll regret that. At dawn, you make your move. You slip out of the village under the cover of morning fog, heading toward the ridge above Caldwin. From there, you have a view of every major path, every entry point, every would-be ambush. You're not just watching now, you're planning. You spend the day marking escape routes, mapping trees and hiding supplies. You move like a shadow, silent and forgotten. By sunset, you've returned, muddy and tired, but ready. You attend the evening sermon, sit in the back, hood up, dagger hidden. The priest speaks of trust, of forgiveness, of humility. You nearly laugh. The carriage woman sits in the front row. She doesn't look at you, but you know she sees. After the service, she approaches.
The next morning arrives with the kind of stillness that feels unnatural. Birds are quiet. Wind is absent. Even the village dogs, usually engaged in some eternal war with geese or shadows, are nowhere to be heard. You step outside the inn, and the world feels paused, like it's waiting. And you are too. Last night's encounter plays over in your head like a badly looped bard song. Her words, her tone, the way she smiled, not with warmth, but with knowledge. You know that kind of smile. It's the one gamblers wear when they've already hidden a winning hand up their sleeve. You make your way through the village slowly, not hiding, not quite visible either, just present. Present enough to hear whispers that aren't meant for you. Like the farmer saying the priest doesn't blink right. Or the baker muttering that no one's seen the new widow eat. You file those observations away. People always notice oddities. They just rarely do anything about them. Back at the well, you lean casually against the stone edge and pretend to admire the weather. The new priest walks by again, accompanied now by the man with the hawk. They don't speak. They don't need to. Their silence says more than any prayer. Then the tinker passes you. She pauses, as if adjusting her cart. You feel the blade slide into your sleeve. A gift. No words, just contact. She walks on. And now you know, somebody on the inside doesn't like how the game is being played. By noon, more pieces move. The veiled woman enters the chapel. Not for service, she doesn't kneel. She checks the altar with a gloved hand and leaves a folded paper beneath a loose tile. You wait 10 minutes after she leaves before retrieving it. It's a symbol, a red circle with a slash. You've seen it once before, years ago carved into a barn wall after a noble's courier vanished mid-route. It means abort. Someone doesn't want this mission to happen. You burn the paper in the hearth of the inn and don't speak of it again. But you remember. That night the tavern is louder than usual. Laughter rings sharper. Tankards slam harder. A fiddler plays something far too fast for a sleepy hamlet. Tension wears the face of celebration. You sit in the corner, sipping mead, and watch the watchers. The priest stays close to the carriage woman. They don't talk, but their synchrony is telling. When she moves, he watches her shadow. When she speaks, his eyes stay on her hands. Military precision. The hawk handler speaks with no one, but stares at the fireplace like it owes him money. The veiled widow. She dances with villagers, with travelers, even with the innkeeper's cousin. She's laughing too loudly now. Cover or unraveling. You're still deciding. You leave early, before things turn. In your room, you check the folio again. One name keeps pulling your eyes back. Torvindal. The only one on the list not crossed out. No location, no mark, just a name. And a small line beneath, the keeper of the cipher. You've heard that phrase before. Once in a fortress deep in the mountains, a dying archivist whispered it to you between coughs and blood. Find the keeper, he had said, before they do. You hadn't asked who they were. Now you wish you had. Sleep finds you late and leaves you early. You wake with your cloak half off and your dagger in your hand. Old habits, useful ones. The village square is empty at dawn, just frost, creaking signs, and the occasional curious raven. You check the chapel again. Nothing new under the sun. The paper is gone. The signal was withdrawn. You wander past the tanner's shop, the schoolhouse, and a granary. You're not looking for someone. You're looking for movement. And then you see him. A boy, barefoot, mud-smeared, running. He stumbles into the church, panicked. You follow slowly. Inside, the priest is already kneeling beside the boy, murmuring something low and gentle. Too gentle, like a lullaby sung with poison in the breath. You step closer. The boy's voice is broken. Something about a man in the woods, bleeding, crawling. They send the hawk handler to investigate. You leave through the side door and cut straight for the ridge above the forest. You take the long path, the hidden one, the one smugglers use in spring when taxes bite too hard. And at the overlook, beneath a half-dead yew tree, you wait. It doesn't take long. The hawk handler appears first, alone, then the priest, then the carriage woman, finally the widow. They meet in a circle. They speak too low for you to hear, but their gestures say enough. They're arguing. Then the priest opens a scroll, and the wind, kind for once, brings a word to your ears. Dahl. Torvin Dahl. He's here, or was. You move closer, step by step, crouching low. Branches scratch your arms, but you ignore them. And that's when you hear it. A crack behind you. Not a branch, a boot. You roll aside just in time as a blade whistles past your neck, the tinker. Of course, you tumble downhill, hit a stump, and scramble upright, dagger reed. You lie still beside the stream for what feels like an hour. The chill seeps through your cloak, numbing your fingers, your toes, and eventually your thoughts. The trees above you sway gently, whispering secrets you're too tired to decode. For a moment, you consider letting the forest take you, bury you in wet leaves and silence. Just one long nap away from being someone else's problem. But then you hear it. Not footsteps, not voices. Breathing, measured, close. You roll slow and silent, behind a moss-covered log. Your dagger, blunt and notched, is already in your palm. You wait. And then the boy appears. The same mud-smeared, barefoot child from the chapel. He's scanning the underbrush, lips moving in a silent count. When he sees you, he flinches, and then puts a finger to his lips. You blink. He gestures you forward, then turns and vanishes into the trees. You hesitate. Every instinct screams trap. But he didn't look like an assassin. He looked like a terrified errand boy, trying not to wet himself. So, you follow. The trail is rough. Brambles snag your sleeves. Mud pulls at your boots. You move low and quiet, using every trick you've learned the hard way. Eventually, the boy stops at a small hollow, barely large enough for both of them to crouch inside. He pulls aside a cluster of leaves, revealing a shallow pit covered with branches. Inside, barely breathing, is a man. He's pale, wounded. Blood mats his side. His eyes flutter open as you kneel, Torvin Dahl. You recognize him from old sketches, older now, thinner, more bone than threat, but it's him. The boy whispers, "He came last night." said they were coming, told me to find someone with a scar on their left hand. You look down at your hand. The thin line across your thumb catches the light. Dal coughs. Took you long enough. You smirk. You could have sent a map. He tries to laugh, which quickly turns into a wheeze. You assess his wound. Deep but clean. He'll live if you keep pressure and keep moving. I have the folio, you tell him. His eyes flicker. Good. Then we might still have a chance. You glance at the boy. Can you lead us somewhere safe? He nods. My uncle has a hut, north of the ridge. No one goes there, except in snow season. Perfect. You lift Dal slowly, letting him lean on your shoulder. Every step is an effort. The boy runs ahead, clearing the path. Behind you, the woods feel heavy, like they've noticed. By dusk, you reach the hut, small, stone, half swallowed by moss. Inside, it smells of pine and damp bread. You settle Dal on a cot. The boy starts a fire with a practiced hand. You boil water, clean the wound, and bind it with scraps from your cloak. Dal sleeps. And then it's just you and the boy. He sits by the hearth, picking at a knot in his sleeve. You break the silence. You did well. He shrugs. He told me to wait for someone who'd understand the difference between a trap and a test. You raise an eyebrow. And you thought that was me? He grins, just a little. You looked like you'd failed both. Fair. You let him sleep while you take first watch. Outside, the wind howls. Branches scrape the roof. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howls. Or maybe it's a trick of the wind. The forest has a sense of humor, like that. Dal wakes just after midnight. Give me the folio, he croaks. You hand it over. He flips through quickly, ignoring the maps, going straight to a sheet of parchment tucked near the back. The cipher, he mutters. What does it say? He doesn't answer. Instead, he pulls a piece of charcoal from a pouch around his neck and begins to write on the hut's stone floor. You watch as lines, symbols, and numbers fill the space. It's a language you don't know. Maybe no one does. When he's done, he points to one symbol. That one, he says, is the trigger. For what? For collapse. You frown. Of what? He looks up. Of everything. Charming. You take a long breath. Can you slow it down? Dal leans back. I can reroute it, temporarily, but they'll try again. They always do. You glance at the sleeping boy. And him? He's the carrier, Dal says. They'd never suspect a child. Suspect him of what? Dal's eyes harden. Of ending a system designed to destroy from within? You blink. He's how the cipher moves? Dal nods. And just like that, your mission changes. No longer survival. Now it's protection. You sit beside the hearth, watching embers glow. Dal sleeps again, worn thin. And the boy? He wraps himself in an old blanket and dreams of nothing. You stay awake, eyes on the door, dagger across your lap. Because now the game's changed. You're no longer bait. You're the barrier. And morning is coming fast. You stay awake longer than usual. There's something about this place. This old ruin buried beneath a dead aqueduct that makes sleep feel dishonest. You wrap your cloak tighter around your shoulders and walk the perimeter of the room, torch in hand, letting your boots scuff the dirt just enough to feel real. Dal is asleep or close enough to it, his chest rising slowly under his patched cloak. The boy, curled next to your pack, has long since given in to exhaustion. His breathing is soft, his mouth slightly open, one hand still twitching in rhythm. With that same tune he hums in his dreams. The cipher lives in him now, hidden, silent, asleep. You wonder what kind of world would ask a child to carry something like that. You trace your fingers across the edge of the pedestal. The obsidian has cooled, but it hums under your skin, faint and irregular, like a weak pulse. The glyphs have dulled to a deep gray. They almost look asleep, too. This vault is older than anything you've ever seen. Older than the guilds. Older than the empire, maybe. There's something ancient in the way the stone bends inward, not built, but grown, like it was meant to house secrets before secrets even had a name. You light a second torch and walk the inner curve of the archive. Shelves sag with decay, their contents long gone. The air smells of dust and rust and echoes. Every step kicks up memories. You find a broken bench and sit for a while, letting your back rest against the stone. Your knees ache. Your fingers are scraped raw. There's a cut on your cheek. You hadn't noticed until now. You're tired. But it's the kind of tired that doesn't go away with sleep. It's the kind that lives in your bones. The kind you collect like bad habits. In the quiet, you remember other vaults, the ones you raided, the ones you ran from, the one where you nearly drowned in ink when a collapsing floor dumped you into a scribe's cellar filled with sealing jars and bad luck. You laugh softly at the memory. Then you stop because you hear something. Not the boy, not Dal. A scrape, a breath, someone else. You freeze. The torch flickers. You press your back against the wall and slide along the edge of the chamber. The sound comes again, near the stairwell. You reach the shadows just as a figure steps into the chamber, tall, lean, dressed in rough traveling clothes. Hood pulled back, and in her hand a pendant. The same one the carriage woman wore, of course. She doesn't flinch when she sees you. She just studies you as if taking inventory. "So," she says, voice like iron wrapped in honey, "you made it." You say nothing. You just raised your dagger. She doesn't raise hers. She only smiles. You've done something clever here, something dangerous. You gesture to the obsidian. Too late. She tilts her head. "Is it?" You step forward. "You're too late. The cipher's buried." She sighs. "You think it's that simple?" She takes another step, hand still on the pendant. "This place is a tomb, not a vault. What you buried down here, someone will dig up. Someone always does." "Then I'll bury them too," you say. Behind you, the boy stirs. The woman's eyes flick toward him. "That child," she says, "has no idea what he carries. What does it cost to encode it into something so small, so soft?" You lower your voice. "He'll never be your weapon." She doesn't answer. Instead, she slowly pulls something from her coat. A scroll. Old, worn. The edge was singed. "I thought you should see it," she says, tossing it to your feet. You catch it before it hits the ground. You unroll it slowly, eyes scanning the ink. It's a copy of the cipher. Not complete. Fragmented, but recognizable. Your stomach drops. She sees your reaction and smiles. You're not the only one who knows how to store knowledge. You glance back at the pedestal. She follows your gaze. You buried one thread. I brought 3 more. Your grip tightens. Dal stirs, groaning. The boy mumbles something in his sleep. You flick your eyes toward the stairwell. She notices. "You could run," she says. "But this doesn't end with a sprint. It ends when you decide who holds the pen." You step between her and the boy. "No," you say. "It ends when I decide who walks out of here." Her smile fades. And just like that, it's done. You move. She's fast. But you're faster. Or maybe just more desperate. You strike low, blade aimed at her side. She twists, grabs your arm, and slams you into the wall. You grunt, pain flaring in your ribs, but you don't let go. Dal is up now, crawling towards the pedestal. The boy is screaming. The woman shouts something, a word that rattles the chamber. The glyphs flicker, and then the obsidian cracks. Just a hairline, just enough. A pulse of light erupts, not blinding but bright enough to freeze everyone. And in that second of stillness, Dal throws the rest of the folio into the flame. The paper catches, burns. The woman screams. You push her back with everything you have. She stumbles and vanishes into the sec. You stare at the dying fire for a long while. Somewhere behind you, the wind shifts, and a shutter taps softly against its frame. The rhythm is almost musical, like an old tavern jig slowed down to a heartbeat. You pull the blanket closer and close your eyes, but sleep doesn't come easily. Your thoughts drift to the pendant woman and her half-burnt scroll, to the cracked obsidian, and the song that never seems to stop humming in your ears. And to the boy, always the boy. He isn't like other children, not anymore. The cipher lives in him now, buried so deep it might as well be his shadow. You wonder if he knows, if he can feel the weight of it somewhere between his ribs when he breathes, or if it simply lives quietly, waiting for the right word, the right moment to awaken. Dal snores loudly and unapologetically. The old woman mutters in her sleep. You catch fragments, names, recipes, a place called Thornroot Hollow. Or was it Hollow Thornroot? Either way, it sounds unpleasant. You roll onto your side and face the hearth. The boy's foot still twitches in time with his dreaming. You count the beats. 1, 2, pause. 3, 4. The same pattern again. A code, a rhythm. Your teacher once told you the best secrets aren't hidden. They're repeated until no one listens anymore. That's how lullabies work. That's how the cipher survived. You wake with a jolt at dawn. Your back aches. Your left arm has gone numb beneath you. The blanket smells like cabbage and ash. The boy is already awake. He's seated at the table, eating porridge and quietly rearranging the utensils into patterns. Dal is outside, chopping kindling with more noise than necessary. The old woman is nowhere in sight. You sit up, groaning. The boy looks up. Did you know, he says, that goats have rectangular pupils? You blink. No. He nods, entirely serious. That's why they look weird when they judge you. You glance out the window. The goat does indeed look judgmental. You stretch, splash water on your face from a cracked basin, and step outside. Dal is stacking kindling into a pyramid. We should move by mid-morning, he says, before anyone comes asking questions. Think she'll talk? Dal shrugs. If she talks like she snores, yes, but no one will believe her. You snort. Fair. The path west winds through a narrow valley choked with blackberry vines. You catch a few thorns on your cloak. The boy doesn't seem to mind. He hums as he walks, and the vines part for him as if charmed. At midday, you stop to rest beside a stone shrine. It's old, worn smooth by rain and time, and nearly overgrown. Only the feet of the statue remain small, bare and carved with surprising care. Someone once left offerings here: dried berries, a cracked bowl of salt, a ribbon. The boy places a pebble on the altar. You don't ask why. Dal finds a half-buried coin and pockets it. You think the pendant woman's still following us, he asks. You nod, even after what happened. Especially after what happened. He sighs. They always chase the last thread. You don't say it aloud, but you know you're not the last thread. You're the needle. That night you sleep under an overhang of tangled roots. The air smells of damp bark and moss. Dal sets up a tripwire. The boy gathers firewood without being asked. Progress.
You stare at the stars while the boy hums again. 1, 2, pause. 3, 4. You hum it back to him. He smiles, then asks, "Did you have a lullaby when you were little?" You shake your head. "Not one with words." He thinks about this. Then softly he hums the tune again, but this time it changes, modulates, shifts into something older, sadder. You don't recognize it, but Dal does. He sits up, eyes wide. "Where did you hear that?" The boy shrugs. "It was in the dream." You exchange a glance with Dal. Because of that melody. That was a cipher key too, an extinct one, buried centuries ago in a monastery that burned under mysterious circumstances. Only 4 people knew the full tune. You knew that because one of them trained you. And he died with the last note on his tongue. Until now. The boy starts to hum it again, but you stop him. "Not here," you say gently. He nods. "Okay." He doesn't ask why. The fire burns low. Dal sharpens his blade with slow, deliberate strokes. You don't sleep. Not that night. Too many old songs in the dark. Too many buried things are rising to the surface. Too many secrets pretending to be lullabies. Later that night, you lie on your back under the cottage's low timber beams, watching a spider lower itself from the rafters. Its web glistens faintly in the light of the dying fire, like a constellation unraveling above you. The boy sleeps beside you, curled around a lumpy pillow that smells faintly of lavender and slightly of goat. Dal is sprawled by the door, with a crossbow across his knees and one eye half open, just in case the stew was poisoned after all. You can't sleep. Your mind keeps drifting back, not to what happened in the archive.
You leave the hidden valley behind just as the sun begins to rise, casting long blades of light between the crooked oaks. The goat, for reasons known only to the goat, follows for nearly a mile before it stops, lets out one last disapproving bleat, and returns to its mossy kingdom. You do not question it. By mid-morning, the trail narrows into a forgotten game path, one that winds between brambles, mossy stumps, and the occasional suspiciously human-looking pile of rocks. Dal mutters, "Markers." You nod. They're boundary warnings, old ones, meant to signal other runners that this trail has ears. Somewhere ahead, you're being watched, but that's not new. What's new is the feeling in your chest. Not fear, not excitement, recognition. Someone's been expecting you. You crest a low rise and find it, an abandoned watchtower, choked in ivy and crowned with the remains of a weather vane shaped like a fox. The boy speaks first. It looks sad. You agree, but also safe. Inside, the air smells of mold and metal. Rusted tools litter the corners. Someone tried to live here once. There are bones of a cooking fire, a woven mat that's been nibbled by mice, and a tiny carved horse hidden beneath a stone. Dal checks the perimeter. You explore the walls. In one corner, you find something curious. A sigil etched into the stone. It's not fresh, but it's not ancient either. 3 overlapping triangles with a vertical line through the center. You recognize it from your earliest lessons. The silent vote. Not a faction, not exactly. More like a whisper that traveled across guilds. A vote of no confidence in the old ways. A signal used by assassins who wanted out, but didn't want to die doing it. Few ever survived long after carving it. You wonder who left this one. You wonder if they made it. That night the tower creaks with every breeze. You lie near the boy, staring up at the rafters still charred from some old fire. The air hums with tension, but nothing attacks. No dogs, no knives. Just wind, owl hoots, and the smell of dust that once meant home. You dream of parchment soaked in honey, A scroll sealed with wax floats in a basin of milk. You dream of your mentor, his back turned, hands behind him. He's humming the boy's tune. When you wake, the sun is already high. Dal's sharpening a blade. The boy's playing a game with the carved horse, walking it up the wall like a climber. You roll up your bedroll and pause. There's something under it. A note, folded thrice and sealed with pine resin. You break it open with your thumbnail. 3 words. Not yet. Wait, no name, no sigil, just a warning. Dal peers over. Another fan? You shrug. Looks like. The boy leans over. I think it's her. You blink. Who? The stew lady. She looked like someone who'd leave a note and not sign it. Dal whistles. He's not wrong. You spend that day in the forest, practicing old routes, checking caches you hid years ago. Some are gone, some are booby-trapped by you, others are untouched. You take what you need, flint, dry bread, a rusted blade you buried as a younger, more optimistic version of yourself. In one tree hollow, you find something you don't remember hiding. A bundle of letters, sealed with wax, each bearing a different symbol. They're not addressed to you, but your symbol is among them. You leave them be. Some things aren't yours to open anymore. By evening, you're back in the tower. Dal cooks root stew over a fire that hisses like an angry librarian. The boy finds a faded deck of cards and teaches you a game he claims to have invented. You lose, repeatedly. He grins too hard for someone pretending not to be clever. Dal finally breaks the silence. So what's next? You don't answer right away. You stare into the fire. You think of the pendant woman, the archive, the boy's tune, and the marker stone now hidden in your pouch. Then you say it aloud. We find the vault. Dal freezes. You're serious. Deadly. The boy tilts his head. What's the vault? You hesitate. Then you answer. It's the place where things go to be forgotten. He frowns. That sounds sad. You nod. It is. But sometimes it's also the safest place in the world. Dal pokes the fire. You know no one's opened it in, 3 generations? That's the rumor. And we believe rumors now? You smile. Only the ones that don't make sense. That night, sleep finds you easier. The tower feels like it's holding its breath, but not in fear. More like hope. Like it remembers its purpose and is waiting for someone to give it orders again. You dream of a door. It's made of stone, carved with spirals and crows. It opens when the boy touches it. You do not wake afraid. You wake up ready. The road to the vault isn't marked on any map. It can't be. Not because it's forbidden, though it probably is, but because the path isn't always the same. It shifts. Or maybe you do. Either way, you know the only way forward is to stop looking with your eyes and start listening with your memory. So that's what you do. The 3 of you, Dal, the boy, and you, leave the watchtower as mist curls between the trees, thick and velvety as lamb's wool. Your boots leave no sound. The birds don't sing. Even the leaves seem to hush around you. Dal mutters, creepy. You smile. Comforting. He gives you a look. You don't explain. You're not sure you could. Mid-morning brings you to a river. Not wide, but quick. The boy steps toward it and stops. Not out of fear, but instinct. You watch the water. Then you see it, a faint shimmer, just under the surface, rippling against the current. Not magic, not quite. Just memory again. You kneel, dip your fingers, and trace the shimmer. It parts. Dal whistles. Still got it? Barely, you reply. You step across on a path no one else can see, each footfall landing on stone that isn't there until it is. The boy follows without hesitation. Dal takes a deep breath and mutters something about back pain and unpaid overtime. On the other side, you find an old gate. It shouldn't be here. Iron bars bent in spirals, sealed in an arch of weathered granite. There's no wall, just gate. You press your palm to the iron. It's warm. "You're sure this is the way?" Dal asks. "No," you reply, "but it's a way," he sighs. "You should write travel guides," you grin. "No one would survive the first trip." The gate opens inward without a sound. Beyond it, a garden, wild, unkempt, but not abandoned. Vines dangle from twisted trellises. Herbs grow in mismatched patches. Bees hum lazily through the air like they've forgotten how to sting. A stone path curves through the center, leading to a round pavilion made of shell-pink marble. And sitting cross-legged in the middle of that pavilion, sipping from a chipped teacup, is someone you haven't seen in 10 years. Your old partner, the one you thought was dead. She looks up, raises an eyebrow, and says, "You're late." Dal stares. "Should we be worried?" "Yes," you whisper. The boy takes your hand. You step into the garden together. The scent of basil, mint, and old danger fills your lungs. Your old partner, Sarah, doesn't rise. She never did like theatrics. She just sets down her cup and gestures to the stones beside her. You sit. Dal stands behind you, hand near his knife. The boy sits cross-legged, mimicking her posture exactly. Sarah eyes him. "He's the one." You nod. She closes her eyes. "Then we have less time than I thought. No pleasantries, no apologies." This is how it always was with her. "Why here?" you ask. "Because the vault is listening," she replies. "And this is one of the few places it can't hear clearly." Dal raises a hand like a student. "Sorry, the vault can hear us?" Sarah smiles, sharp and thin. "It doesn't just store things. It remembers. It watches. Sometimes it calls." You exhale. "And now it's calling him?" She nods toward the boy. "Or through him?" You glance at the child. He's examining a beetle on his knee, whispering to it in a language that might not be real. Sarah continues. "There are patterns in the world, threads. Some are songs, some are wounds. The vault collects both. That tune of his, it's not just a lullaby, it's a key." You feel the weight of every footstep you've taken since the archive. "Where is it?" you ask. Sarah gestures vaguely southward. "Where it always was, but the door will only open for the right voice, or the right silence." Dal mutters, "Well, that's delightfully cryptic." Sarah smiles. "You always did hate poetry." Dal scowls. "Poetry never saved me from arrows." "Poetry's what tells you where they'll land," she counters. You interrupt. "What happens if we open it?" Sarah's face darkens. "That depends on who's waiting on the other side." You stand. The boy stands with you. Dal doesn't. Sarah rises last. She hands you a map, not of roads, but of seasons. A folded parchment inked with temperature shifts, rain patterns, and the sleeping rhythms of birds. "It'll get you close," she says. You nod. Then, without a goodbye, she turns and walks behind the pavilion and is gone, just like always. Dal exhales. "She gives me hives." You smile. "She saved your life twice." He shrugs, still itchy. You tuck the map into your coat, take the boy's hand, and head toward the southern path, where the bees fly slowest and the air smells like wet stone. The vault awaits. You step quietly through the hush of green, where the moss drinks light and even your breath feels padded. The boy walks ahead, arms loose, eyes soft, humming the same strange song. The forest absorbs the sound like an old friend, not echoing it, just nodding along. Dal shuffles behind you. If I get eaten by a tree, I want it known. This was your idea. You smile without turning. Noted. The boy stops. You look up. The forest has changed. No more trees. Not exactly. Now it's columns tall. Knotted things that once were trees, now frozen mid-melt. As if time got tired halfway through a spell. Between them strings. Thin, delicate chords, almost invisible, some taut, some loose, all humming with memory. You step carefully. A string brushes your cheek. You flinch. It's warm. Dal mutters, what happens if we pluck one? Don't! But the boy already has. A single note rings out clear, round, and utterly heartbreaking. You see something just for a second. A woman with gray hair clutching a letter. Then it's gone. The boy doesn't look back. He's found a door. Not a door in the normal sense. No hinges, no frame. Just an oval cut into the bark of the world, lined with bone and ink, and something that smells faintly of cardamom. You all step through. The forest doesn't follow. The next space is quiet. It's a circular room, stone and salt, with a ceiling that glows like dusk. In the center, a mirror, not of silver, of water, floating in midair. The boy approaches. He leans in. The mirror ripples. You see a castle crumbling under moonlight, a tower with a weather vane shaped like a fist, and below it all, a library filled with sleeping faces, not dead, not alive, just paused. The boy hums. The mirror stills. A drop of water falls upward and lands in his palm. He closes his fingers. The room sighs. A panel opens. You're led into a corridor of memories, literally. Each wall holds framed scenes looping in silence. Here, a knight weeping into his breakfast. There, a scribe using powdered beetles for ink. One frame shows you, much younger, staring into the sky like it owes you an apology. Dal raises an eyebrow. You walk faster. Eventually, the hallway narrows into a throat of stone, and you emerge into an atrium where everything smells like cinnamon and copper. There's a fountain at the center. Instead of water, it pours sand. The boy steps up. He places the upward drop of water into the top tier. The sand stops, then reverses. You hear a chime. A floor tile vanishes. Beneath it, stairs. Dal groans. Of course. You all descend. The steps grow colder. The air tightens. Then, a chamber of eyes. Hundreds. Glass ones, mounted on stalks. Each blinks as you pass. No mouths. No guards. Just gaze. The boy hums again. Software like an apology. The eyes close. You pass. Beyond them, the tunnel opens to an underground meadow. Yes, meadow. Lush grass. Tiny wind. A sun that isn't in the sky, but blooms from a glowing orb, resting in a net of vines above. There's a table, set for 3, and a woman seated at the head. Her hair is rooted. Her fingers are bones. Her smile is familiar. Welcome, she says, though her mouth never moves. You nod. She gestures to the boy. He sings well. You nod again. He will open the vault? You hesitate. She notices. I see. She lifts a small stone. It hums like the strings in the forest. He is not the only key. Dal tenses. She places the stone on the table. It begins to spin. You feel something shift behind your eyes. Images, memories, names you've never spoken. The boy touches your hand. It stops. The woman blinks. So he chooses silence. You nod. She smiles. Wise. She waves her root hand, and a wall peels back to reveal the vault. Not a door. A mouth. Dark, wide, lined with petals of metal and old song. It breathes, slowly, like it's asleep. She says, enter when ready. You do not move. Dal does. He walks up, kneels, and presses his palm to the threshold. Nothing. He steps back. The boy steps forward. He does not kneel. He sings.
The vault breathes in and opens. No light, no sound, just invitation. You all enter. Above, the vines shift ever so gently, though there's no wind. You wonder what memories lie hidden between the moss and the stone. The light bends slightly here, like it's unsure whether to stay or flee. Dal mutters about curses again, but even his voice sounds reverent. The hush deepens with every step, like the earth itself is holding its breath. The silence is not empty. It's textured, threaded with waiting. The boy hums a different tune now, slower, maybe older. Something watches, not hostile, just aware. Somewhere, a low tone thrums, almost like the purr of the world's heart.
You follow the boy deeper into the chamber, each step muffled by the thick dust beneath your feet. The walls seem to close in slightly, not with menace, but with the kind of ancient curiosity that watches from beneath lichen and time. The air is warmer here, tinged with copper and ash. Somewhere ahead, water drips at a perfect interval, steady as a heartbeat. You don't speak. Even Dal, who always has something to say, stays quiet. Maybe even he understands that words don't belong in places like this. To your left, an alcove glows faintly, lit by something that isn't fire or oil. A small figure sits inside, carved from basalt, or maybe obsidian, though its edges shimmer with hints of green. The figure holds a knife in one hand and a bell in the other. You wonder which is meant to be used first. The boy glances at it and keeps walking. He's not scared. That unnerves you more than anything else. Your fingers brush the wall. It's not smooth stone, but braided strands like vines, petrified into architecture. Within the grooves, faint pictograms tell looping stories. One shows a man walking backward through a door. Another shows a bird swallowing a crescent moon. You try to make sense of them, but quickly stop. The symbols feel like riddles, meant for someone else's mind. Dal stops beside you and exhales softly. This place was built with patience, he murmurs. You nod. Everything here suggests intention, not the hurried work of war or fear, but the slow precision of people who knew they were being watched by generations unborn. The boy pauses at an archway. His hand hovers, not touching the stone, but close enough that the runes along the edge seem to shiver. Light blooms beneath his palm. It isn't magic, not the loud, flashy kind. It's quieter than that, quieter and far older. It remembers him, Dal says. You're not sure what he means, and you're not sure you want to ask. You pass through the archway, and for a moment it feels like walking through water, thick, cool, and oddly forgiving. On the other side, the chamber opens wide. It's not empty. The floor is a mosaic, worn but intact, showing a night sky filled with animals instead of stars. Lions sleep inside constellations. Whales drift where moons should be. It's peaceful. It shouldn't be. The ceiling stretches high into shadows, but you can just make out beams of polished wood crossing one another like ribs. Something rustles above feathers, maybe, or parchment stirred by windless breath. You don't look up. You've learned by now that some things in old places prefer to remain half seen. The boy walks to the center of the mosaic and sits cross-legged. He doesn't speak, doesn't move. Dal hesitates at the threshold but doesn't enter. You're alone now, except for the quiet. You sit too. Not because you're told, but because it feels wrong not to. The floor beneath you hums low, musical, like a note you've forgotten how to sing. Time doesn't pass here the way it should. Minutes feel stretched. elongated like shadows before dusk. You become aware of your breath, how it echoes slightly, as if the room is listening. Maybe it is. Maybe everything here listens. That might be why no one's dared speak yet. On the far side of the room, a mural climbs the wall. Unlike the pictograms earlier, this one is clear. It shows a city built atop the coils of a great serpent, not crushed, supported. The serpent's eyes are open. Its tongue is not forked, but split into paths, one leading to a sun, the other into smoke. Beneath the city, smaller shapes, crawl people maybe, or something that used to be people. Dal finally speaks, his voice oddly calm. Historians still argue whether this was a metaphor or a blueprint. You believe him. The mural doesn't feel symbolic. It feels like instruction. You trace the line of the serpent's path with your eyes, watching where it disappears into a hollow beneath the floor. There's a trapdoor there. You hadn't noticed it before. You wonder if you were meant to. The boy looks up at you then, and for the first time, he seems unsure. His hand rests over his chest, where his shirt is stitched with a symbol, 3 overlapping circles. You've seen that before? Not here, but in a book that smelled of mildew and panic. It had been a warning, or maybe a prophecy. But either way, you realize you've arrived at the part where stories stop being stories. You rise and move to the trapdoor. It opens without resistance, revealing a spiral staircase carved into the bedrock. The steps glow faintly with moss or some bioluminescent mineral. You descend, the boy behind you, Dal, far behind. Each step is colder than the last. Somewhere below, something breathes not deeply, not threateningly, but enough to make the hairs on your arms rise. It knows you're coming. You wonder what the ancient assassins thought when they reached this point. Did they feel pride, dread, the weight of their task etched into the marrow of their bones? You'll never know. But you do know one thing. The archway seals behind you, soundless as a breath. The air shifts again, drier now, touched with something like cinnamon and parchment. You're not sure if it's real or just the residue of memory clinging to your skin. The boy doesn't follow. He stays behind, sitting beside the pedestal, unread pages still unfolding without ink. It's your path now, only yours. Ahead, the corridor narrows. Carvings spiral along the walls, snakes swallowing their tails, stars melting into droplets, and a repeated image of a face without features. Just the outline of a head, over and over, sometimes inverted, sometimes divided by a thin, vertical line. It watches you even as it does not see. You step carefully. The floor tiles shift beneath your weight, not dangerously, but deliberately, like they're adjusting to your presence. Every few meters, a soft click hums through the stone, and faint glimmers light the path ahead. You begin to suspect this place was not meant to be hidden forever. It was waiting for someone, maybe you. Then you hear it. The first voice, not a person, not exactly. It's more like a memory-given sound. It calls your name, not your spoken name, but the one buried deeper, the one you've only heard in dreams or during moments of sleep-drunk half-awareness. It says, "Return what was taken." You stop walking. Dal's voice crackles through a slit in the wall behind you. What did it say? You don't answer. You can't. You're still holding that name in your head, afraid it'll evaporate if you let it go. You continue forward. The tiles become cooler. The light shifts from gold to blue. And with it, the images along the wall change. Now you see the face again, this time cracked open, revealing stars inside. A new chamber unfolds at a head. wider but not taller. The ceiling presses close now, like a cave grown from intention instead of stone. Tiny mirrors embedded in the roof reflect your steps back at you, each movement doubled, refracted, and repeated. It's disorienting. You catch glimpses of yourself walking beside yourself, but always slightly out of sync. At the chamber's center is a table, no chairs. Upon it, a collection of objects, each one familiar, but wrong. A comb that looks like the one from your childhood home, except it's made of iron. A cup that once held wine, but now bears a thick layer of salt. A journal filled with writing in your hand, though you never wrote it. You don't touch anything. Not yet. The wall behind the table glows faintly. A mural, unfinished. Figures sketched in haste. Running, falling, reaching. In the center, the faceless outline again. Only this time, it's surrounded by animals. A lion with too many eyes. A deer with no mouth. A crow stitched from shadows. You hear the voice again. Choose the memory you'll give back. You step closer to the table, unsure. Dal appears behind you now, silent. He studies the objects with narrowed eyes. This is about sacrifice, he mutters. You knew that, right? You nod. But sacrifice isn't always about loss. Sometimes it's about release. You pick up the journal. As your fingers graze the cover, you feel something shift behind your eyes. Memories untethering, floating, asking to be let go. You flip to the last page. A single line reads, "He who remembers nothing forgets nothing." You close the book and place it back. You make your choice. The chamber reacts. A soft groan rises from the stone, like an old throat clearing. Light spills from the mural seams, and suddenly the lion, the deer, and the crow animate not physically, but in reflection. Their shadows peel off the wall, elongating, then shrinking, then folding inward until the only thing left is a doorway where none existed before. Dal looks at you, expression unreadable. He shrugs. You lead, he says. You walk through the doorway, its threshold a thin membrane of shimmer, like light seen through closed eyelids. On the other side, silence returns, but not the kind you know. This silence is dense. It hums. It breathes. Here, the walls are smooth and metallic. No carvings, no murals. Just clean lines, a geometry you can't name. The air smells like nothing, truly nothing. Even your own scent disappears. You're a shape walking through stillness. Dal whispers, "This isn't ancient. This is after." And somehow, you agree. This place doesn't feel like the past or even the present. It feels like what remains when everything else is gone. Then a flicker. Ahead, a shape stands waiting. Not a person, not a shadow. More like an impression burned into the room itself. It mimics your stance. When you tilt your head, it mirrors you. But it's always slightly late, just a fraction of a second off. You step closer. So does it. A voice. Yours. But not rising from the floor. You were always walking toward me. But now you must pass through. The shape touches your hand. It's not cold or warm, just recognition. Just the feeling of something you forgot coming back to rest where it belongs. You close your eyes. Why? The light does not blind you. Instead, it dissolves you layer by layer, like mist lifting from a lake at dawn. You are not falling or rising. You are being remembered. When sensation returns, it arrives in waves. The scratch of linen at your wrists, the smell of old ink and iron oil, the faint taste of citrus left behind by a stranger's memory. You are in a library, not a grand one with echoing halls and towering stacks. This one is low-roofed, intimate. Firelight winks along the brass clasps of 1,000 closed books. Everything is quiet. The kind of quiet that implies someone's about to speak, or just has. Dal stands beside you. He's staring at his own reflection in a blackened window pane. You ask where you are. He doesn't turn. This is the archive of the unchosen, he says softly. It keeps what people nearly became, paths they almost followed, words they never said. You walk. The books are strange. No titles, no authors. Just symbols pressed into the spine's circles. Keys, teeth, feathers. Some shelves are filled with objects instead. A broken compass. A folded letter that glows faintly at the crease. A pair of spectacles with no lenses. Each item buzzes faintly in your peripheral thoughts, as if offering half-forgotten dreams. A gentle breeze moves through the room, though there are no doors open, no windows cracked. The shelves stretch farther than they should. It is possible, you think, that the library rearranges itself as you move, that it listens. And then you see it, your book, not metaphorically, literally yours. The same leather cover you doodled on as a bored child. The stain from that rainy afternoon in your teens. The faint scratch where you tried to carve a secret inside. You reach for it. Your fingers graze the cover. It's warm. Not with heat, but with presence, as if the book has been waiting for you, quietly humming in its sleep. You open it. The pages are blank. No, not blank. Faint impressions begin to rise as your eyes adjust. The ink doesn't sit on the surface. It seeps through from below, like memories rising from a long-forgotten cellar. You read names you don't remember choosing, places you've never walked, conversations that echo with voices both yours and not. Each sentence pulls you deeper. Some pages ripple with joy, a missed chance to dance under thunderclouds, a lover you never dared write to. Others ache with what-ifs, paths abandoned, truths withheld, courage sidestepped. The book is not a record. It's a reflection of every version of you that could have been, and still might be. Dal rests his hand on your shoulder. If you want, you can leave it here. Let go of the weight of almost. You nod slowly, but you hesitate. One final page is yet unread. You flip to it. This one is different. Written in newer ink, shakier hand. It says, if you're reading this, you made it farther than most. But what you choose next will echo backward, even into the past. You close the book. Your reflection stares from the cover, now older, steadier. You set it on the shelf. The air shifts. The books hush. The library releases you. A hallway unfolds, not carved or ancient, but wooden, warm, humming softly with candlelight. You follow the sound of wind chimes, even though there's no breeze. Footsteps soften. Your breathing slows. You feel lighter. At the end of the hall, a low table waits. A kettle steams gently. 2 cups, Dal pours. He says nothing. You sit. The tea tastes like chamomile, pine, and something unnamed, something familiar in a way you can't place. You both watch the steam curl toward the ceiling beams. You don't need to talk. Here, silence is enough. You stay there a while, minutes or maybe years. The concept slips from your shoulders like a discarded cloak. Then comes the door. Just a door. No carvings, no symbols. It opens outward. You step through. Grass bends beneath your feet. The sky above is dusted with stars. Not constellations, just stars, scattered and soft. A breeze carries the scent of lavender, soil, and the faint trace of firewood. Somewhere in the dark, an owl calls. You are not afraid. You are no longer a question. You are a breath, a pause.
just a little longer than expected. You lie down in the grass, and for the first time in a long while, you sleep not as a flight, not as forgetting, but as return. You wake not in the library, not in the corridor, not in the archive. You wake in your own bed, sheets tangled around your ankles, soft morning light peeking through the curtain's edge, the hum of distant traffic, the slow tick of a wall clock, all exactly where you left them. And yet, you are not who you were. The air tastes clearer. The silence is thicker, friendlier. You sit up. Your hands remember something your brain does not. A gesture, a symbol. You draw it without knowing why. A spiral, a feather, a door. Outside your window, the world is beginning again. Birds argue in the trees. Someone waters their garden. A dog barks, then falls quiet.